One thing I do want to mention, Kendrick and guys, before we go, I think we do need to talk about a dismissal that took place today at Hampton. Um, you know, the Hampton fired Edward Joyner, and 15 years. And now, granted, Hampton didn't have the best season this year. What was it? Did they have 9 wins? It was 9.
Yeah, they were 9-25.
9-25. They lost to Delaware in the first. Was that the first round, right? And just
the second round, they beat Elon in the.
That's right. They beat Elon. That's right. So, but they lost like by 20 points, something like that, and just wasn't a good look. I think did they finish last in the conference, or at the bottom, near the bottom? And so
they were 9-25, so they were pretty close to the bottom.
And look, and the thing is, what I found somewhat jarring is that in the press release that Hampton released when they made the announcement that his contract wouldn't be renewed, they talked about his successes while he was with the MEAC, but then even went so far as to talk about how extra or uber competitive the what conference are they in? The what is it now? It's called the
Colonial Athletic Conference.
It's not the Colonial.
I mean,
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. The Coastal Athletic Conference, and they went so far as to talk about how competitive, how much more competitive it was, and I'm just like, wow, man, you really gonna say that? But facts is facts, right? I mean, the CAA has always been, and again, it's one of those teams that, from what I understand, Hampton's been wanting to get to the CAA for a long time. And it's just kind of amazing to see that now that they're there after what they did while they were in the MEAC. I mean, look, they were pretty formidable, but they just, I guess I'm interested to hear what you guys, if any, do you have any thoughts about that? Because again, 15 years, given what he did as the head coach of the MEAC, and then to see what he was unable to do after being in the CAA, it makes you scratch your head.
What we're starting to see with respect to A&T and Hampton in the Coastal is that not only are the waters are a little more deeper, but the sharks have just a little more bite. Like this is we're talking about a conference that from top to bottom, you can go Maine, you could go University of Delaware. As much as I hate to give that school any credit for anything, but they've done a tremendous job in building an athletic program that, of course, will be going into Conference USA next year. But there's so much, there's so much depth in the Coastal Athletic Conference, from in every sport, not just basketball, but football as well. I mean, I get that you want to test yourself against someone who you feel like, you should, be able to, stand on solid ground with, but you're not going to stand on solid ground with Delaware. You're not going to stand on solid ground with Richmond. You're not going to stand on solid ground with New Hampshire. You're not going to stand on solid ground with William and Mary. It's just the resources, the gap is just too wide. And I hope that, I'll never forget, because the recently retired sports information director of Delaware State University and one of my mentors, Mr. Dennis Jones, we used to say this all the time whenever a MEAC team would allege to be leaving the conference. The MEAC is like Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for it. And I hope that Hampton and A&T understand that the light is still on at the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, because if you're just, paying money hand over fist to get your snot boxes rocked by Campbell and, Elon and Charleston and all of that, you can just come home and be a champion, competing against the schools that you have tradition with, like against the Central, against the Norfolk State, against the Delaware State, against the Howard. If that's what they want to do, I don't know their budget situation. I don't know what their alumni want. I don't know what their students want. But I can tell you right now, getting your butt kicked every year in every sport by a bunch of PWIs can't be part of the mission. I don't think it is. So I hope that both these schools take a hard look at the bottom line and say, okay, all right, we tried this, didn't work. Let's head on back to where we're familiar.
Chris, let me ask you. You said that the MEAC is possibly saying that we'll leave the lights on for you. Do you really think the MEAC is leaving the lights on for A&T and Hampton?
They'd be foolish not to. And I mean, and I'm saying this, from a person that has, heard through the tea leaves that DSU was trying to leave for the Northeast for God knows how long. But I mean, as you can see, our entire, non-conference schedule for football, save for Hawaii, is the NEC. So you can, take that. But, I don't think there should be any ill will towards A&T and Hampton should they want to come back, because if you think about it like this, can you imagine if Hampton and A&T came back and either one of those two won the MEAC for football, and you get Florida A&M winning the SWAC, or you get Southern, or you get Grambling, and you put these fan bases who travel and who have wide alumni bases across this country back in Atlanta, it's easy money. So I would think that if Hampton and A&T were to show, I mean, granted, neither one of these schools are going to show humility, but just say, just kind of just say, all right, we tried the PWI thing, it didn't work. We understand that, HBCU pride and all of that, we let it back in. I think Sonya Stills and crew would say, absolutely, come on back. And MEAC would greatly benefit from that.
Mark Robinson made another great point. He said he should not have been fired. He's given everything to Hampton. And I'll be honest with you. I don't understand it either. You don't just become a bad coach overnight. And when you've already admitted, this is the thing that I found so perplexing. You admitted in your statement that going from the MEAC to the CAA was a bigger challenge. You admitted this. And yet you've seen what this man was able to do while he was at the MEAC, while he was in the MEAC, and then you fire him. But at what point do you accept the fact that despite what you were able to do against the MEAC, and you can say, you can say competition, whatever the case may be, at some point you're going to have to look and say, okay, what is it that they've got that we don't? We know it ain't coaching. What are they doing that we're not doing? You would think that you would learn from, but I don't get this. You admitted that the conference was much more competitive, but then you let them go. So, this is, I don't want to speak, but look, man, I'm not going to say that. MEAC and A&T, you're getting what you deserve right now. I mean, this is basically what this comes down to, I don't want to get off subject. Let me stop. But that man should not have been fired. But this is the same school that realized that didn't they forfeit some games with the football team because they didn't have necessary compliance people?
That was that. Oh my God, Ken, you just reminded me of that. None of that makes any sense.
That's my point. So how do you put this all on the coach and you decide you don't want to renew the contract? I don't get it. When everything points, it indicates that it ain't the coaches, it's administration. We know money. It helps to have money, but apparently whatever you're doing, you ain't got enough of it. But you blame the coaches. You don't blame the compliance people, but you blame the coaches. You can't win any games, but you forfeit some games because come on, man. I mean, look, just Hampton is supposed to be one of the most iconic academic institutions in the country. But goddamn, what? You put this all to shame, man. I mean, I'm just saying, man. It makes no sense to me.
But Ken, though, what you said about Hampton and North Carolina A&T getting what they deserve, you're not the only one who thinks that, by the way. There's a lot of people that they get what they deserve by leaving the MEAC.
Oh, look. I play this. I'm not rooting against A&T and Hampton. I'm not going to root against them. But I sure as hell ain't going to feel sorry when shit don't go right. Ooh, I wasn't supposed to say that. But I'm just simply saying, especially when it's self-inflicted. I'm just simply saying that. So believe me, I'm going to always root for you, A&T and Hampton. But when shit goes bad, I ain't crying for you. Go ahead, Jared.
I would just like to apologize to my mom, who's a Hampton grad.